Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do our hits and misses series, and today we're going to be talking about Lower Decks 2 Part 1. So let's talk about what came in this arc first, just to give everybody a bit of a time stamp on this. So we got the new ship, we got the Mona Veen, we got new officers. Deliberate pause there. New missions, and we got some more as well. Obviously, the Mona Veen was a new ship launch. This is a Ops 40 plus ship, which was only available if you was willing to pay for it during its first arc. We were guaranteed that sourcing path would be given to this during October, which we have now found out it is going to be giving out through territories. So this is something good to look forward to and something that we can talk about later on. A very simple loop. It's basically like a Franklin B. And if you'd like to see a video specifically on how the Mona Veen works and looking at the loop again, I know this has been done by other content creators, but make a comment down below, and if you want me to do a video on this, I'm more than happy to do that. That's no problem. New officers we got Carol Freeman, we got Jack Ransom, and we got Andy Billups. These are all three PvP officers. We're not going specifically into them, but these have caused a little bit of a stir, understatement of the year, in terms of what they are doing for PvP. These have made things very, very difficult for us to see a way out of these just becoming the new meta and rendering lots of things brought before it useless. We got some new missions, some of the best missions ever in the game for those that read missions. They are fantastic. I would recommend, even if you didn't have time to do it at the time, you can go back on stfc.space and you can actually read the mission text. There was some good mission text in there. It wasn't bad. We got a new refit. We got the Armored Voyager refit. Again, this was a paid-only mechanic. This is going to become a theme to the video. New Battle Pass. Obviously, we've got some new cosmetics, which I think are decent, and a small handful of bug fixes as well. So that's basically what we got in the patch for Lower Decks 2 Part 1. And obviously today we're going to be talking about the hits and the misses. And please, please, please stay tuned for the whole video, and you will find a little hint towards what's coming during the October arc. So as we like to do, we get the bad stuff out the way first. Let's start off with my 3 misses that I found during the September arc in Star Trek Fleet Command. So my first miss I want to start off with is officers. Now, with specific reference to sourcing, I was able to unlock all 3 of these officers this month, and that's a decent thing. Now, the issue that we have with these officers is what they actually do. Now, if we go into the carousel and start having a look at what some of these officers do, all of these are specific to PvP, and all of these are specific to damage. Now, you look at Carol Freeman, you look at her captain's ability. Carol increases your shots by 100%, in essence doubling your shot counts of your base shots. Now remember that when we're talking about base, these will not be affected by things like the Tribune's burning ability. They will obviously be on top of the base as well, so this is going to be from your base firing pattern. When you look at the firing pattern of your ship, it's going to increase that. Now where these officers start to go wrong, because that's not a bad ability, that's really good. We have loads of officers that increase shots. When you look at her officer ability, on round start, if an enemy player has any state meaning morale, burning, hull breach, or assimilated, Carol Freeman increases your isolated cascade damage by 60% for 1 round. And bearing in mind that this is at tier 1. As we can see here, as we improve her in terms of rank, we go from 60% at tier 1 all the way up to 130% at tier 5. Now, a key word to this is cascade. So isolated cascade is a key part of why this officer is so powerful. So this 60% is obviously taking your raw damage. So if we take a quick look at a battle log, just to really quickly explain why this is a problem. Take a look here. If we have a look at this vulture shot up here, so it fires 2.822 million as its standard damage. The isolytic damage is a percentage of whatever this damage is. It's then added in. Obviously, it doesn't follow the standard mitigation rules. Again, I'm not going to go into too much details on how isolytic damage works, but you imagine that 2.8 million, rather than it being this 98,000, if I had Carol Freeman there as an officer ability with the required state, 60% of whatever this damage is would then be added in isolytic damage to this already relatively decent isolytic damage. So that 60% is big. Plus, any artifacts or anything else that you've got that affects isolytic damage, the cascade element of it means that you get a 60% buff to all of those as well. Again, added into that isolytic amount. So it's absolutely huge. Now, 60% is a pretty decent number. But again, if we have a look back at what our ability goes to, 130%, meaning that if we looked at that figure, even without thinking about the cascade from all the other artifacts and things, that would mean that a 2.8 million shot would end up being around 3.5 million in isolytic damage, having her at tier 5. Absolutely ginormous, absolutely huge. And this is why these officers are seemingly breaking the game. So that's Carol Freeman. And if we take a look at the other two officers in this set, Jack Ransom, who's obviously a member of the Explorer Strike Team, has his officer ability. If you're an Explorer with morale, Jack Ransom is increasing your cascade damage again by another 60%. So no, absolutely ginormous. Now again, you wouldn't often run this with Carol Freeman. He doesn't synergize with Carol Freeman, despite him being a lower decks officer. He synergizes with the Explorer Strike Team. So remove the weakest member of the Explorer Strike Team, generally thinking Ikatika, and then obviously add this same ability, this 60% cascade in there, giving you that additional run. And then the other officer that we got this month in Andy Billups, exactly the same. However, this is with hull breach, but on an interceptor. So again, part of the interceptor strike team. Now, both of these also have a below deck ability. So in terms of Andy Billups, on a round start, if it's a battleship and the enemy player has burning, increasing your isolytic defense by 40%. Now, the impact of the 40% defense, this is working on the standard Scopely efficiency models. So 40% is okay, but it's not ginormous, not like the isolytic cascade in terms of the offensive damage, which is literally a net add. So these abilities not that impressive. Plus, obviously, one of these abilities for these officers didn't actually work when launched, which is another issue, obviously, with the officers. Now, what these officers have done is they have totally ripped up the impact of the strike team and definitely killed the ability of pretty much any other officer. The new meta for PvP seems to have been Carol Freeman with Honor Guard Worf and with Lorca. Now, there is a little bit of a counter to that using the likes of TOS Ahura, which is nice, but what we need to see is we need to see some more ingenuity, some more creativeness when we're looking at these officers to have something in order to counter these. So first big miss, the officers this month, it's a big one, it's a huge one. They have added far too much isolytic damage to the game in one hit without a real obvious sign of something that's actually going to be able to counter them. So that is our first miss, and it's quite a big one. And my second miss, please apologies for the slight distortion on the web page here. It seems the event page is having a little bit of a wobble when we're talking about it. But my second big miss is going to be in the sourcing of these officers. Now, throughout the whole of Voyager, the game got onto something impressive. The game got onto something so good. They implemented heroic milestones for the Doctor, for Janeway, for Chakotay, for Seven of Nine, where basically an SMS completion over 1, 2, 3 weeks, you were able to math your plan out and you were able to get really good unlocks of these officers. Starting in this month, there was a change. And I've picked this one, which is the Recruit Chief Engineer Billups Heroic SMS, which basically offered 50 shards of that officer, of Billups, and it offered 50 shards of Ransom in the top milestone. Obviously, these milestones were not ridiculous when we compare them to what we've had previously. They were similar, they weren't too bad. However, what we was not able to get was a full unlock of one specific officer in one specific SMS, basically meaning that in order for you to unlock any officer of your choice, you had to, in previous months, for the likes of Chakotay, 7 of 9, etc., you were able to complete one of these milestones all the way to the top and get a full unlock. This week required at least 2 completions of the SMS event, meaning that for me, it in essence meant I needed to spend about 80.2 million points for a full unlock of the officer. I was lucky enough to be able to do that with the materials that I had stored. However, I cannot imagine that that is going to be the same across the board. It's going to have a massive, massive sway on people because you couldn't just choose one and go all in on one. You basically had to go all in on at least 2 of these SMSs in order to get just the unlock of the officer. I think this is a huge miss. I think they were onto something fantastic. I don't think anything was broken by the time we got to Chakotay. I heralded it in my Chakotay video that it was the best sourcing ever. I enjoyed 7 of 9. I thought it was okay. However, I feel that this is a big step backwards in terms of sourcing for epic officers. I think they got it off to a T during Voyager, and I hope that they decide to go back to the Voyager model in future months, because I believe that was the right way to source these. And then you pick up the extra shards if you want to go hard in the SLB. But the SMS events to get the unlocks of these officers was ginormous, and I believe this is a step back, as I've said, and that is our second miss. And now time for our third miss. So our third miss is in relation to the Monaveen. Now, what I'm disappointed with the Monaveen is the sourcing path. The last few specialty ships that have been released have been transparent in their sourcing pretty much from day one. Obviously, we've got the Defiant, which we can get through the Solo Armada loop. We've got Voyager, which we can get by collecting the Herosian relics and transfer them in every day. We had a path. What I'm disappointed with is the fact that this has seemingly been sourced from month two, not from month one, so people can't buy in. This has now been sourced from month two, starting off in territories. Now, the issue that we have with territories is obviously that not everybody can get on the map. It's been confirmed that this is going to be a service, and a service for the Monavine, meaning that you need to be on the map. And when you look at the amount of alliances that are on the map, I know that our server in particular has around 20 alliances on the map. So 20 alliances on the map doesn't sound too awful bad, but a lot of them have only got, for example, tier ones, or they've only got tier twos. Like if we look, there's alliances that have just got a single territory, or alliances that have just got 1 and 2 star territories. And what this is doing, this is going to actually alienate a vast majority of people from being able to source the Monavine with the way that they're planning to source this with regards to services. People that aren't on the map, that are in smaller alliances, and I'm going to have to think, is it still worth being in your alliance if you want to start sourcing the Mona Veen? It's going to push people for alliance hopping. Alliance hopping meaning obviously that they're going to lose all of their alliance reputation, which you can gain at the top. If you leave your alliance, this will all be wiped back down to zero, and you will have to work back up to be able to access some of the researches that are in the Starbases tree, which may not be an issue to you. That may not be a problem in the slightest. However, I feel that this is going to be very slow sourcing, and I feel that it's alienating lots of the players. It's already a 40 plus ship, which is one thing to consider. That maybe people that are in the rank 21, 25 alliance, are they 40 plus? On legacy servers, I think a good chunk of them are. However, in the major servers, on the older servers, I think the majority of people are now 40 plus, and that's fair. However, I believe that they are going to not be able to source this Monavine very, very quickly. And that's my third big miss. It's one of the big content releases, and the actual specific sourcing path for the Monavine, I feel, is not going to be very good for this arc, and that's my third miss. It's now time to talk about some positives. I always like to end off on a good note, so we're going to start off with them, and we're going to carry on with the Monavine, because the Monavine ship itself in application, I think, is absolutely marvelous. Let's talk really quickly about what it does. So the Monavine itself, I am heralding it the Franklin B. This is, you go, you kill specific hostiles in the system, similar to what we did with swarms. We then use the stuff that we get from killing those hostiles in a refinery in order for you to then get resources, basic RSS, past steel, titanium, and dilithium. And you're able to get that on a daily basis, and they are good numbers. You can see mine's at tier 4 in the 56 to 57 range. I'm able to get for 1 redeem 102, and for up to 3 redeemed, I can get up to 300 billion past steel a day. Go across to things like dilithium, and we'll take 2.2 billion with 1 redeem, so up to 6.6 billion dilithium every single day from that. A huge jump on what I get from the Franklin, which obviously is capped at basically level 50. It does have one more thing, which is its own brand of solo armadas. Those solo armadas are automated shipyards. Those automated shipyards pay out the shipyard credits, which you can then come in and exchange for materials. So all 3 materials, depending on your level, will determine what is in these in terms of rares, epics, etc., etc. And remember that this is also tied to both your ops level and the tier of your ship. Now, this is fantastic. Now, in the past, the redeems for lots of these things were solely on the tier of your ship. So for the first 7, 8 tiers, if you was at the higher echelons of the game, the payouts were meaningless to you. However, they have taken that into account with the Monavine, which is fantastic, meaning that as you tier it, you get a bump in your payouts. As you go up in ops levels, you also get an increase in your payouts. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant that they've managed to do that, and they've decided to do that. So this is basically the Franklin B with solo armadas tacked on the end, and you're able to get materials out of that as well as the basic RSS. Now, to give you some idea on some of the math behind this, it works out roughly, and it's been worked out by lots of other people, that this is the equivalent each month of being able to unlock this, the October Elite Daily Reward Pack, over a monthly period. So these are really good. So basically, for a £100, $100 outlay in month 1, or when you finally get the ship for free, then you will basically have earned an Elite Daily Reward Pack every single month for free by engaging in the Monaveen arc. And this pack is not to be sniffed at, but that is the rough approximate payouts for this over the long term. It's giving you roughly what this pack would pay out. So if you're willing to get it early and you want to start engaging in the loop, it will pay dividends in the long run. Obviously, the Monaveen, one thing I really like about it is the fact that I can just send it out. It can sit, it can auto grind in a system, and it can do my dailies for me. It can get my loot for my hostiles. The only thing that I have to actively do in this particular loop, the only thing I need to do is the solo armadas. Everything else can be auto grinded, and I think that's a great time save in the game that I can just throw it out when I'm going AFK, when I'm going to work, into a meeting. So I think the design on the Monaveen has been very, very good. And some of the researches that come along with it, again, I'm pretty impressed with. So the Monaveen also has research particles that you can get from its refinery. And then in the Starships tree, they have not only got some Monaveen specific researches added, but they've got things like this: pure station reinforcement, reducing the cost efficiency of your materials on your station upgrades. There's obviously mining speed in there. There's improvements to Armadas, payouts, uncommons, rare and epics for the standard things, broken parts dropped. There are some good things that are outside of the loop. So it does actually give a real good reason for people to want to engage in the loop other than the resources and materials. So really, really happy with what the Monaveen does in practice. My second big hit was in relation to officer sourcing. Now, I know I mentioned it in one of the misses that the officer sourcing for two of the epics was a little bit rough. However, this month we was able, for just a $20 battle pass, £20 battle pass investment, you were able to get a full unlock of Carol Freeman. And I think this is exceptional. Being able to throw an epic officer, which as a standard has a rule of around $400, £400 for an unlock. That's the general rule of thumb that we work on. If you was able to just buy the officer outright, we were able to do that for a £20 investment within the battle pass. As well as, one other thing that I want to mention regarding the battle pass was the increase in payouts. Now, this is absolutely ginormous. Now, if I have a look at my payouts for the battle pass, if I'm in the 55 to 60 bracket, one thing that anybody that's not at this sort of ops range will know is that G3 for the longest time has not been included within the battle pass once you got to 51 plus. This is the first month where G3 has been added back into the battle pass for the 51 plus players. Now, this is fantastic because people still use G3 materials to work on ships for scrapping, to get G4 materials, to finish off research, to upgrade ships in during auction events, during the heavy SMS events. So getting that small drip of G3 is absolutely superb. So I'm really, really happy with the improvements made to Battle Pass, as well as a general economy bump where all of the payouts were increased anyway across most ops ranges. The addition of G3 and the G5 Battle Pass, I think, is absolutely ginormous. I spoke to lots of G5 players that never even realised this, and they are very, very welcome additions back into the Battle Pass. So really, really happy with that they've started to put G3 back in there, and just a £20 investment to be able to get an unlock of an epic, I think is absolutely superb and something that I hope that we see again moving forward. And finally, our third big hit of September in Star Trek Fleet Command. Let's talk about this little doozy here. Arguably the best officer in the game for PvE, Hugh, with his outstanding lower decks ability of increasing your critical chance and doing away with many, many hostiles just because of that specific ability. Hugh sourcing this month got an absolutely ginormous bump. We have had 2 runs in September of a Heroic Armada event. Heroic Armada event meaning spending directives. So spending directives, i.e. solos in terms of epics and rares, and then regular epics and rare directives as well. You were able to get a full unlock of Hugh each SMS event that ran. We had 2 of them run. They were in pretty quick succession. Which I know has got a slight negative from some people. However, he was able to source within the space of a week 240 epic Hugh shards from spending directives. Now, if anybody is not swimming in epic and rare directives for both solos and for regulars, you need to go back and watch my videos on sourcing epic directives and sourcing rare directives and uncommon directives, just so that you can keep that loop going. I will put a link to both of those videos videos at the end of the video for people to be able to check. Before we dive into why this event is so good, remember guys to leave your comments down below. Let me know what your 3 hits and your 3 misses were for the arc. I am really interested to hear. I know there's been some frustrations, but I do believe there's some good things. And this Hue event, whereby you had to spend down some of your epic and rare loot in time to be able to get 240 Hue shards over the space of a week, I think is absolutely exceptional. I would not begrudge this event running once a month. I think twice a month is a little bit too heavy, even with the brilliant sourcing that I showed you on a couple of those videos. But being able to do this has been absolutely superb. You can see that from my game, I've been able to get my Hue to rank 3. The only other way to source Hue shards is through the solo Armada. So the Borg solos in the Epic bundle, if you go into your Borg Tech Refinery in the Epic Solo Exchange, you can see that there are chances to get 1, 3, and 5 Hue shards every time that you do a pull of this chest. As a rule, I get between sort of 1 and 4-ish, sort of every single time this bundle renews, which is sort of every 4 days. It's not fantastic. It does give you a nice drip, but being able to do this event where we're able to get a massive jump in shards, like I said, 240 shards in a week if you're able to complete them both, is ginormous. But again, please, please, please go watch my epic and rare directive sourcing video specific to standard directives. It's absolutely fantastic model. It works really, really well. And that is our 3rd hit of the arc. Thank you for sticking with us all this time, and now it's time for a hint for October. Are you excited for what's coming in October? This is your hint. As you extend your associations in territories, make sure you don't mix up your zone frame, as it could lead to confusion and a visit to the doctor. One more time. As you extend your associations in territories, make sure you don't mix up your zone frame, as it could lead to confusion and a visit to the doctor. Ooh, what do you think? So guys, all in all, I think September felt pretty rough in some areas. I hope this video has sort of highlighted why it felt so rough, but also that there were some glimmers and some positive notes as well. Not everything was bad this month, despite the general sentiment with things, and I'm just hoping that things will only get better from here on in out. Please leave your comments down below and let me know your 3 hits, let me know your 3 misses, let me know what you think of the hint. Let me know if you think that you've cracked it and you know what's going to be coming when we get the latest update coming in October. We will be giving away battle passes as from both a quiz from the officer tool, which will be on our Discord. Please, please, please join our Discord. The link to that will be down below. And likewise, we will be giving away battle passes on Twitch over the next few days as well. So keep your eye on those announcement channels so that you know when they are going to be coming. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. We are doing fantastic on subscriptions, and I'm really, really pleased with the way that that's going. We do now have a merch store. And here it is, itslube.com. You can go on here, you can check out the new merch on there. You can see we've got some fantastic merch items. Massive shout out to Candy White on this. They do most of the leg work on this in terms of the designs and getting stuff out there. There's some fantastic stuff. It helps support the channel, and you actually get something for doing that as well. So please go check that out on itslube.com. Like the video on your way out. That always really helps the channel. It's really good for the analytics. Have a fantastic and a wonderful day. And remember, guys, that everything is better with Lube. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all soon.